Previously on Gears.
It's Gary Formato on Gears. How are you, Gary?
Fine, and yourself?
I'm all right. Gee whiz, what a Grand Prix we had yesterday.
It was. I mean, listen, I think obviously the race at the front, I mean, that was what everybody was talking about, even late last night. So, yeah, it was, of course, Formula One had delivered a great show yesterday.
It did, and it created the controversy, I suppose, which just always is there when it comes to the world of Formula One. But now the first thing, before the Grand Prix, both Red Bull Racing and Mercedes Grand Prix came out and said these tyres are rubbish, we want to go back to the 2013 tyres. Ironically, they were the two teams that were the top four on the podium.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we had a chuckle yesterday watching it as well. I mean, quite clearly in a week they managed to sort out whatever issues they had with those tyres and, got the most out of them yesterday. I mean, nobody could really touch them after Alonso was out of the race. I mean, it was Red Bull and Mercedes up the front.
Unbelievable. Now, sure. We've got to look at this thing. I've written a little article about team orders and what's right and what's wrong, but I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, which is fair enough. But Gary, I mean, you're a racing driver. You've raced as an individual. You've raced in teams, whether it be racing your own car, whether in sports cars, swapping cars with or seats with other drivers. Team orders happen all the time.
No, they do. I mean, it's commonplace in motor racing. I mean, it's just how it is. I mean, I've been in situations where the team orders has not been good for me, and it's a terrible thing, and you're very frustrated and actually quite angry about it. But it's just the way it is. On the other hand, I've been in situations where the team's working for me, which is what I have right now, and and my teammate Sean has had to sacrifice events and results for me. So yeah, it's not a secret. I mean, this is how motor racing works.
So now the thing is, looking at what happened between Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber, I said in my piece, you know what, had Vettel just come out and sat there and said, listen, I don't believe in these team orders, and I knew I was quicker, and that's why I went for it, I most probably would have sat there and said, you know what, at least he was frank. But to come out with a half-hearted apology and, we'll discuss it internally, and I'm sorry, it doesn't sit well with me.
No, look, I mean, you try and you try and be diplomatic about it and say the right things, but in all honesty, my personal opinion is he's a spoiled brat. He knows what he can do in that team. He knows that Helmut Marko is going to protect him to the very end. And honestly, yes, he might, as you said, it's a half-hearted apology. I don't think he really cares. I think it was quite evident in his earlier comment when he said to the team, just get him out of the way. He's not fast enough. You knew exactly where his mind was at that point in time. So, it was completely wrong in my opinion. A lot of people are disagreeing and saying, well, it's racing and what have you. I think those people don't really understand the dynamics around it, and there's a lot more to it than just going out there and having a race. It's not a race from robot to robot. This is a business as well as as a sport. So, it was the wrong thing to do. I think lost a lot of supporters yesterday. I haven't spoken to anybody involved in racing with today that Vettel was right. So, he did the wrong thing.
Now, I'm glad you bring that up, because besides losing some fans, Gary, surely the other drivers on the track, I mean, of course, they all want to try and beat Vettel. He's a 3 times world champion. You could take nothing away from him for that. But other drivers are also now going to sit there and say, hold on a second, this guy's, racing is one thing and racing is racing, but I think they're going to start looking a little bit negatively towards him.
No, I think so, and you'll probably find that within the very small community of F1, there's probably negative sentiment that's been going around for a while, because it's not the first time that we've seen this kind of attitude being displayed, not as extreme, but it's been there for a while. And yes, I agree with you. People are going to say, well, Vettel, he doesn't respect his teammate, obviously doesn't respect the rest of us. And I think he really needs to be brought down to size. At this point in his career, he's won 3 world titles, the youngest ever to do so. He's won as many Grand Prix as Jackie Stewart. One would think that he could afford to be, a little humble at least at this point in his career.
A lot of people, Gary, also don't get the fact that nowadays when you've got only 8 engines a season, 5 gearboxes a season, a lot of the call that is made by the team, they were under no more threat from the Mercedes drivers, and they were completely aware of it. That's why they made that call. So, for Vettel then to go and be very risky, to go and make the move that he made on Webber, I mean, it could have ended disastrously, but they could have also broken both their engines. And I think this is a point where Vettel needs to be brought to book.
Absolutely. I mean, apart from the fact that you say it could have taken both cars out, I agree with you. The engines, the gearboxes, there's all those things which are taken into consideration. And it didn't just happen on the pit wall, we're in a situation, what do we do? These kind of things are discussed, pre-race, pre-season, in fact. And, in some cases, I would imagine even written into contracts between drivers as to how they should perform and what they need to do for the team. So, he just went completely against the team in all manners yesterday. And it was ridiculous. And going forward, I mean, how is Sebastian Vettel really going to be behind Mark Webber? I mean, 80% of the time he's quicker. So there's nothing really for him to prove or anything by doing what he did yesterday.
What do you think Webber's going? Because I was sitting a little bit earlier, I was telling Daisy on the show about Alberto Salazar and Nelson Piquet getting into fisticuffs in the sandpit. But I mean, I was sitting there going,
very bad fighters, was there?
Yeah, they were bad fighters, put it that way. But I was sitting there thinking, why didn't Webber just give him a flat here across the head? What is Mark Webber going to do now?
Well, Mark Webber, I think, is starting to look for another team now. It's like, and he said as much yesterday. I mean, he's in a very frustrating position because he's not going to get the equipment to outperform Sebastian Vettel. Yes, they'll say they give everybody equal treatment, which they probably do, but there's always that little bit extra that goes to one driver or another. So he's got the toughest job in the world right now. I mean, he's not going to be able to just go out there and beat Vettel because we know that that's not going to be the case. To keep himself motivated and doing the right sort of job is going to be so hard for him. So I can't see that he want to stay with the team again next year.
Yeah.
In this sort of environment.
And I mean, listen, a guy like Webber is going to be in demand for it. If we look at the other side, where you've got the two Mercedes drivers, you've got Lewis Hamilton, you've got Nico Rosberg. They're in fuel-saving mode. Lewis is going much slower. Rosberg has the opportunity, and Ross Brawn makes the call and says, negative, hold your positions. You've got to feel desperate for Nico Rosberg, but Rosberg will want to be paid back somewhere along the line.
And he might well be. I mean, there'll be situations where it will turn and go in his favour. I mean, it might not. But at the end of the day, he respects the team order, which is what it was. And, he did the right job yesterday. And like I said when I first started talking to you, sometimes your team orders infuriate you, but there's nothing you can do. You've got to somehow keep the team at mind and work for the team. You're employed to do a job there. You paid a lot of money to do business. It's part of the game. So, Merck as well in the same position. Why go and throw away any sort of results? Rosberg not going to catch anybody in front of him. Wasn't going to get caught by anybody behind him. Slow down, look after the cars, get to the end of the race. That was a mega result for Merck yesterday. Third and fourth was a fantastic achievement for them.
Yeah, it's unsurprising that the likes of Nicky Loud, Toto Wolff, and some of the board members at Merck are very upset, but purely because Rosberg's the German. That's all.
more than likely, but I think it did also show us who the team thinks is going to achieve a better result throughout the year, and I think all of us are probably thinking the same thing. So, it was an opportunity for Rosberg to finish ahead. He's been quick. I mean, he did a great job this weekend in qualifying and throughout the race as well. But look, I think this whole team thing, I think people just need to accept it. I mean, even people in F1. I mean, Niki Lauda back in the day, he was also adamant when he drove for Ferrari way back then that he was the number one driver, got the treatment and everything else. So, it's not new to him either.
Yeah. Listen, besides that, it was an outstanding race, Gary, to see. I mean, 4 really, really competitive cars right at the front. Most probably a little bit unlucky that Raikkonen wasn't up there and Alonso.
Yes, I think so. Look, obviously qualifying hurt Kimi, and he had those 2 off as well during the race, lost positions there with Hulkenberg. So just put himself in a bad position, which unfortunately when you start down the field, those kind of things happen. But the car still showed promise. I think it was quick enough. Grosjean, I think, impressed me yesterday. So the whole team is looking a lot better. But I think the season's on, and controversies here. The show's good, the race was good, and I think it's just going to get better from here on in.
Yeah, 3 weeks, Gary, until everyone calms down. Well, 3 weeks for everyone to calm down again. But you got to believe there will be tension when we get to China.
Oh, listen, there's going to be tension. I mean, but this is what it's about as well. I mean, this is what people do want to see. There's a bit of controversy, and we've got it now. I think between Webber and Vettel, it's thick. And this is it. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we watch the sport as well. The guys, they're driving, some of the fastest single seaters in the world out there, and even with the emotions run high, and these guys go for it. I mean, they are real racers. So. Look, I mean, it's what we need. NASCAR, for example, I mean, they support this kind of thing. I mean, a good argument after the race in America is smiled upon by NASCAR.
That's for sure. I think there was one yesterday as well. So, it just makes the world go round. Anyway, it was a great race, a good victory, and 1-2 for Red Bull. Great result for Mercedes. And listen, let's just hope it bodes well for the rest of the season. Final thing, Gary, because everyone's going on tyres. Yet, as I said right in the beginning, the irony is the four or the two teams that were moaning about it come away with the most amount of points. The tyres are there, and they're the same for everyone.
Well, that's exactly. And I couldn't say any better. It's the same for everybody. You've got to produce the right car to look after the tyres. The drivers have got to look after the tyres. It's part of the game. Pirelli could go and make a tyre tomorrow that'll last for 80 laps. Yeah. And we've had it before with Bridgestone previously. The races are boring. It's not what it's about. So these also show at the end of the day. So I think Pirelli doing a great job. They have been since they got into Formula 1. They've given us some fantastic races. And I'm glad that they're still doing that.
Yeah, terrific. All right, Gary, my friend, we'll speak to you soon. I know you're racing next weekend in PE.
PE, correct. Yeah, we're going to Eastern Cape.
Yeah, over the Easter weekend. Is it Easter weekend? Yes. No, not this weekend. Next weekend. They're the 6th. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, I'll be there.
We've got our new STs out there, and we've got obviously a lot of hope in those cars. They're quite trick, I must say. We've got all the people from Carsworth out from the UK with us this week, so we're working hard on that and hopefully run a test session. And hopefully the new cars do well.
Awesome. We're going to send Daisy along. She's going to be your pit girl.
Perfect.
I've been waiting for that all along. I don't know why the offer took so long. Daisy, you're welcome at any time there.
Thanks, Gary.
Awesome, Gary. Listen, look after yourself, my friend. We'll speak soon.
You too. Take care. Cheers.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.
Beautiful.
Gears with Sasha Martinengo on bulls.co.za.